KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Yes. And good morning, everybody.
Good
We're on
morning.
air. We are on air now.
You know, that
Radio is happening.
That pre-show party is really starting to get to us. We ought to do a show today. What do you think?
I think eventually we have to. You know, we have a great show planned for today because what we're actually doing is preparing for the holidays real estate edition, talking everything about what it's like to buy, sell, or own a home, especially during the holidays and what's coming up in the new year. So
Chris,
it sort of bleeds into both of them.
I got a quick shout-out.
Absolutely.
I want to do. You know, every couple weeks we meet up in the Heights at the Heights Cigar Lounge, and last night in the Heights they had the whole, like, Christmas theme thing, and they had people roaming the streets and all this sort of business. And so I said, you know, I've never been next door. Every time I walk in here, I look at all this little shop, and I see it, and I go, I've never been next door. So I walked over there, and it's a place called Blissful Indulgence, and it turns out it's like a little hair salon place, you know. And I frequent those a lot.
Absolutely.
So, as everybody in the studio gets that joke, you know, and my missing hair. And so I'm talking to the girls and about what they're doing and stuff. And meanwhile, customers are walking in, and they're like, oh, what's this shop? And they said, oh, it's a hair salon. I said, I'm their biggest customer. I use all their products. It's fantastic. So I promised them I'd give them a shout-out because I think I ran away quite a few customers last night with that comment. So Alexis, Levy, and Samantha, if you're out there, I'm sorry for running off quite a bit of business for y'all last night. But they said they would tune into the show today and listen, and so I wanted to give them a shout-out.
Well, that is awesome right there. You know, it's a good thing you use all their products because let me tell you, the head is nice and shiny this morning.
Yes,
Definitely had the lotions working very good. It's massaged really well in there.
So anyway, up today we have one of my old friends today, and of course one of our sponsors took and invited him. You know, Ashley Bowles, who's our inspector, invited Rick Dittemore
A.B.
from
Bowles
Keller.
Home Inspection.
Well, thank you for that plug. Anyway, Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
And you've been a top producer out in Katy for how long now?
Do I have to tell you?
Yes, you do.
Sold my first house in Katy in 1987.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Foreclosure, of course.
And you have been with Keller Williams the entire time? Is that?
No. Actually, started off with a little boutique real estate company called West Houston Realty. It was my father-in-law talked me into getting my license.
Have you forgiven him yet?
He's actually one of my heroes now.
Yeah, I'll bet. So
That was back when Katy actually seemed like a separate town.
Yeah, it's changed a lot.
well, you know,
That's
that's interesting.
That's just an outside part of Houston.
That you say that, but Katy really is its own little segment. Rick and I were talking this morning about the inventory on hand, and that citywide it's like 3.1 months supply, and I think Katy's like, how many weeks of supply do you think you have over
Maybe
there?
2 hours.
2 hours worth of real estate. So, you know, when Joe talks about things being smoking hot, it's smoking hot out in Katy. What's the biggest part of the business out there?
Well, what drives the Katy market is most likely, from what I can tell, the oil industry, and all the jobs are being created with that. And, of course, the schools are a big part of that. And also the reputation that Katy's got as far as being a great place to raise a family.
And it is nice out there. So,
And, you know, the other thing Katy has a lot, you know, speaking from someone who's out there with Rick, obviously.
Besides having a great mortgage person.
is, you know, the growth. I mean, if you look at where Katy is today, and you look at what we have now, La Centera, all the shopping, all the eateries that we have out there, we didn't have that 3 years ago. Even, you know, probably less than that. What we have now, you're seeing it as part of that growth that Rick was talking about. I mean, really and truly, the energy corridor is driving a lot of individuals who want to have that weekend living style, the great education, but also now areas to go and be able to eat and live and actually raise a family, but be able to do fun things has really changed.
Yeah, and Joe, what we're also seeing is a lot of corporations are moving out that way because of the lifestyle that Katy offers, and it's a pretty cheap place to buy real estate compared with California or Florida or, you know, some of these other areas that are fairly expensive.
You know,
right.
That's a common theme when we've talked with realtors on the show and things like that. It's that people don't really buy houses anymore. They buy a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And Katy has a lifestyle, which kind of brings us to the Christmas edition here, is that I know a lot of times that that clients will say, you know what, I want to wait till the, next year to put the house on the market. What's your feelings on that?
Well, it really depends on what their, what their goal is. A lot of people may be ready to sell, but they, a couple of things play into that. Number one, they've got family coming in; they don't want to hassle with that. And what I always tell them is, look, when you hit the first of the year, we're going to have more people putting their house on the market. So you're going to be in more competition with other sellers. The buyers that look during Christmas are serious buyers. You're not going to have people out doing home tours at Christmas time.
Kicking the curbs.
So you do have the serious buyers. And the last thing is that they have the ultimate say-so into whether they're going to have a showing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we're going to call them and let them know, and they can say no.
Some of the conversation I had is like, your house probably never looks more beautiful than when it's decorated for the holidays.
Right, and they do ask, can we decorate? I say, absolutely. Let me get the pictures first for the online services, and then once we get those, and decorate.
That's kind of touching on that with the Christmas time of year and the theme of the show, preparing for the holidays.
And the Hanukkah time of year too.
Yes, Hanukkah. Yes. Preparing for the holidays. Is there something that from educating the consumer side of this that we do differently, or preparing for the holidays? If they're putting the house on the market, is there a different approach during this time of year, things that they need to be aware of or things that they need to be concerned about at this time of year if they're planning on listing a house?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but really it's just business as usual. I mean, it's, again, you got family in. If they need to say no to a showing because they've got something going on, then that's fine. And that's some of the things that they're concerned with, is that, I'm going to have people over, people want to come in and barge in, and no, they have the ultimate say-so as to whether or not there's going to be a showing. And, again, you got serious buyers this time of year.
And, I would agree with you right there. That's one of the questions a lot of times that are asked is, I've got family coming in town, et cetera, as you mentioned. For all those listing, the great thing is a lot of times people like Rick and everybody else in this room, they use different services. And those services, you have the ability to say, yes, I can do a showing today, or no, I do not want to do a showing today. Now, it's never recommended to say no if you're trying to sell a home, because obviously you want to try to get buyers in there. But the other thing is that during the holidays, you also obviously have things that are decorated really nicely. Oftentimes you're cooking some good food. You've got some great smell. We talk about smell being one of those big things. You have decorations out in the lawn. So even though right now our lawns are starting to look brown, you offset that with some of the decorations of color and festivities, et cetera, et cetera. So,
exactly.
One of the things that I always tell everybody is it's always great because, again, buying a lifestyle, you want to be able to walk into a community. You want to be able to walk into a home and know that there was a family living there, especially if you have a family. You want to know that there's nice families on the block, et cetera. So it can actually enhance that ability to sell a home.
Yeah, I mean, how much better is it going to feel to walk into a decorated home as opposed to one that's vacant?
Right.
Right. So
I would absolutely agree.
You're right.
Well, and buying a home is always going to be an emotional experience. And being able to, I'm sure there's people out there that, don't like the holidays. I'm sure those exist. But from an emotional experience, buying a home and connecting that with the emotions of the holidays and family and all that sort of thing really, I think, amps up the emotional aspect of it, which kind of ties into, we're talking about how hot the market is. At Christmas time, are we still dealing with, is that an issue for you, getting multiple offers on properties, this sort of thing, and the emotional aspect of that? I know before the show we were kind of talking about dealing with multiple offers. Mm-hmm. And educate us a little bit about, from the consumer, you're working with a buyer. What does it look like when they're dealing with multiple offers, even in the Christmas time?
Well, buying a home is emotional, and it's, this is where you're going to bring your family. So, and people get to the point where they're like, okay, we really like that house, and then we got to have that house, and then it's like, oh, there's someone else interested in that house. Oh my gosh. And so you get sometimes a frenzy of what we call bidding wars, and we even had a term that we coined this past summer called flash sales. Which is that, a house comes on the market and within a matter of hours it sells. So what we've seen, one of the things we've seen happen, which is kind of odd because I've been doing this 27 years and never seen this, to the extent I've seen it now, is where buyers get in a frenzy, they make an offer, they bid up their offer, and then if they win the offer, all of a sudden they have buyer's remorse. Right. And I get a call from the agent the next day saying they're pulling their offer, or within a few days, because they've gone, we bid too much. So that's one of the things we're starting to see, which is odd, but I can understand it. But again, it's their agent educating them on the process and the fact that, if they are getting a loan, that there's going to be a checkpoint there with the appraisal. If it doesn't appraise at the price that they offered, and assuming they're putting the minimum loan to value, on the loan, then as a down payment, then they're going to be able to pull out of the deal and get their earnest money back.
And that was a very good point, by the way. A lot of times that buyers are more, they're worried more about, is it going to appraise? Is it going to do this? Am I overpaying for it? And that is the checkpoint. Most people don't realize is an appraisal is done by a third party that is not influenced by either the agent or the loan officer. And so it truly is what they call a market value. And part of the contract, explain how that contract works, because there is a confusion sometime of, a financing addendum versus what the appraisal was reflected on the contract.
Right. So I'm not sure how to explain this easily, but if they're putting the minimum amount down for the type of loan that they're getting, for instance, it's a 90% LTV, so they're having to put 10% down.
LTV is loan to value.
Loan to value.
Loan to value.
Then that property would have to appraise at the sales price for it to be approved.
Right.
Now, if they're putting another 10% down on top of that, then there's some buffer there that it could actually appraise lower.
Right.
Right.
That is correct.
So if someone's putting a lot of money down, more than what the LTV is required on the loan, then that appraisal, they need to be explained to how that works.
Right, because then there's some negotiation that goes on, typically speaking, in that area. And that was a very good point, because a lot of times if you're doing 20 or 30 or 40% down, still getting financing, and it doesn't come in at value, then there's some more negotiating that can or cannot happen right there. Now, you still have the ability to say is, I'm still overpaying for the property, but oftentimes you have individuals who are putting that much money down. They're aware going into it, and a lot of times they're also aware of that flexibility that might exist in regards to any negotiation that's needed right there.
Well, when you're doing conventional, they'll use language in the contract that basically says it has to meet underwriter's guidelines. There's two sets of approvals nowadays.
Right,
The
that
credit
is correct.
approval for the buyer, and then approval of the home.
Right.
And the credit approval of the buyer is a negotiated number of days, but you can actually get up to a few days before closing, and if it doesn't appraise, they can still, get out of the contract because it didn't meet the underwriter's guidelines. So
right.
It's gotten to be a really sticky wicket, and people are trying to add language to the contract to try to get around that piece, but none of the language is working. And if you look at a VA or FHA, they'll specifically say, must appraise.
Right.
In the language of the financing addendum. So are you seeing a lot of trouble with getting appraisals out there in Katy?
Not much. It's they come up, but it's not something that we're seeing as a real common problem.
Well, it was kind of systemic for a while. Is that they when we first kind of started coming out of the the downturn, is that appraisers were not giving value to the market going upwards.
Correct.
And opposed to that, they actually were detracting when it was a downward market. So, it's appraised for this today, but it's a downward trending market, so therefore we're going to appraise it for lower. So,
well, I remember a lot of times the appraisal data is usually behind what's actually happening in the market, both trending upwards and downwards, right? So what you end up happening a lot of times is, for example, this happened a lot in the Woodlands. And the Woodlands was just, overbidding on prices for a long time. But what ended up happening is the appraisers could not catch up to the actual cost. Number one, it wasn't posted out there. There's a lot of them were pending sale. A lot of them hadn't gone through, et cetera, et cetera. So it takes a little while for that data to really go through the market. I tell everybody, remember, an appraisal looks back 6 months. And so you have to have 6 months worth of data to really look and see those increases of values.
Yeah, it's a lagging process.
That is correct.
And of course, we get houses that aren't being put on the MLS, so we don't get that data at all. So those pocket lists, I always encourage, go ahead and put it on the MLS after you have it under contract, so we get that data, because that stuff, having good integrity in the data is so important to be able to value a home.
Absolutely.
Time flies when you're having fun, and we are having fun here, but we're also coming up against a break. So, Rick, do us a favor. Let us know, for all those individuals looking at using you, especially out there in the Katy area where you dominate, let us know how we can reach you if you don't mind.
Sure. Our direct line is 281-395-1234. Tough number, 281-395-1234.
That's
right. Or email me at, ricksellshouses.com is my website.
ricksellshouses.com is the website. That's Rick Dittemore with Keller Williams, part of the ricksellshouses.com team. And Rick, thanks a lot for being on board today.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate
Don't
it.
go away. We want you for later.
We want you for later. For all those listening, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
In the morning, fever all through the
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show. Again, we want to hear from you. This is a live show. You can call us at 800-808-5548. If you have any questions about real estate, preparing for the holidays, or anything associated with buying, selling, or owning a home, give us a call. We're always here to answer those questions. You know, next up right now, we actually have Theo Allen. Theo, how you doing, buddy?
Excellent. A little cold, but
a little cold, right? Just a little cold outside.
Well, it's supposed to be.
It's,
we're going into holiday season. When it was 81 degrees, I find that I just can't get in that Christmas spirit.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because of everything that was going on up in the northern part of our of the state here up in Dallas, and you know, we look at it and I go, at least we don't have the ice that is coming down right now. So
don't put that out too much, because I have seen ice in Houston, Texas, and you know what?
Oh, it's not fun. Trust me,
it's not fun.
Yes,
so.
I would thoroughly agree with you right there. Well, Theo, you know, obviously you're with Keller Williams up on the north side of town. Where's your office? And let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do, if you don't mind.
It's right in the center of the Champions Forest area, so right there in the Cypresswood, actually Champions Forest area. Been there for about 8 years.
Okay.
Excellent opportunity. We're right between the big explosive growth between the Exxon campus and the Woodlands office, so pretty good prime area.
You know, and Champions has always been pretty interesting because Champions obviously is one of a little bit of the older area of town, but very, very well maintained. I mean, when I go up there, let us know a little bit what Champions is, how it is, what's going on today in regards to that. I think it's always important because we haven't had really a lot of conversations about Champions in a long time.
No, well-established neighborhood and
very well-established.
Beautiful homes up there.
Yep.
Yeah, Champions is really, like you say, an established neighborhood. Really great. It holds its value because there's a control of inventory levels that are there.
No value is guaranteed to be held. My disclaimer.
The legal disclaimer. You always have the legal disclaimer right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, yeah, you know, that is a worthwhile point. The age of an area. I remember reading a book a good while back on the millionaire mind, and it was just a study of the typical behaviors of millionaires or above. And one of the things was that they commonly will buy in established neighborhoods, established areas, because the home property is typically holds its value and has a predictable increase of value, and that's something they look for. So I don't know how if you experience that more out there in your area or just what you're describing there, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of truth behind that.
Absolutely, there is, and you're right, Rob. There's a sense of a control of inventory that happens along the way there. So that area is really growing. So we have not just the Champions, but there's the 249 all the way up into the Woodlands area that's really been growing. So there's a lot of land that's available, and a lot of the developers have begun to build all the way up to the 2920 area where we have the new Grand Parkway that's coming in now. So what's happened is we've had a big infusion of growth along from the Champions up north to the Woodlands. So it's like it was before. There was an established Champions area, that's an established Woodlands area, and then there was this gray area in between there. Well, that gray area is quickly being eaten up by developers, building communities. So it's really expanding in that region.
And, and what I like about it, obviously, in preparing for the holidays theme, is one of the things that I love doing at this time of year is driving up in the Champions Forest area, because you have some of the families that really go all out in decorating their homes, in decorating their streets. And so it's really neat when you walk into an established community and you see some of those massive themes, some of those decorations, some of those streets that are just completely done. In fact, they're almost like they're on parks in amongst themselves right there. It's a lot of fun driving up there, and I encourage anyone at nighttime drive up to those areas.
And it does seem to happen more in established neighborhoods as opposed to new neighborhoods, because a lot of people have been there for 15, 20 years. They know their neighbors, and of course with a transient city like Houston, a lot of times you don't know your neighbors anymore.
Right, and in fact, one of the things that I've heard is that a lot of times people who are selling a home will say, now here's my tradition that I've done for 20 years. Can you maintain it because the whole street does it this way? I mean, have you seen the same things?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that especially holds true when sellers selling their home. There's a new buyer, and in an established community like that, they want to be sure that you uphold the standards. And so, yes, when they are very festive and there's a lot of decorations that are going on, when there's these huge tradition that happens in the community like this, then yeah, you do see that passed on. They want to see that continue.
And I don't. It's not in Champions, but I do know there are some neighborhoods that actually have it in their deed restrictions, in their covenants of their documents, that they will decorate and they will put certain things out. So I mean, there are some people have actually established some rules about decorating.
Wow. Is that in Conroe? That is correct.
Pecan Grove.
Pecan Grove does.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so there's probably more than one community that actually does that. So
Yeah,
anyway.
it makes it great for the holiday season, for Christmas season. So as you're preparing for this time of year, you want to pay close attention to those things. If you're in one of those communities that you are, working around and helping to make it all festive.
So if the Grinch is out there, please do not buy in Champions.
That's right.
Well, and then also talking about moving forward, 2014, how do you see, obviously you finished up 2013 is almost in the books right now. 2014 is coming on. We're going through the holiday season right now. What is sort of the forecast for 2014 in the area?
Well, the area is, like I said, continues to grow, and we've had our share of the flash sales, so to speak, in that you put a home on the market today, and tomorrow it's multiple contracts. So right now, the premise for the sellers has been that this time of year things slow down. But the truth of the matter, as Rick said, is we have not seen that happen right now.
Right.
And in fact, the serious buyers are indeed out during this time of year. So I'm seeing a continued growth in terms of buyers looking to buy properties. We have great rates right now. There's some changes coming in the new year, and so there's a sense of urgency to purchase properties and a sense of urgency to sell properties because the market is really great right
Really
now.
hot.
That's an interesting point to the good segue to the bond market kind of went up this week.
That is correct.
And caused rates to slip up a little.
Well, and one of the things, as Theo was talking about right here, we're sort of still in that perfect storm, right? You've got inventory available. You have strong home values are still out there. Business in Houston is taking place at a rapid pace. I mean, oil and gas, look at healthcare, the amount of hospital systems, et cetera, et cetera. We have an abundance of employment. And the one thing is rates are extremely low. Even with the bump up, I mean, the bond market this week went from about 2.67 to about 2.86. Now, for all those who are listening, what that represented is an interest rate change of probably about 3/8 or 0.375 of an interest rate change. Average 30-year fix on a conventional was 4.25. Probably went up to about 4.625. Average FHA rate was 3.75. Went up to about 4 to even 4.25 in some cases. But even at that level, even in the fours, and Theo, you know this being 8 years, it's still absolutely incredible in those rates. It's still money that we have not seen. I mean, prior to the past 3 years, money had not been that low for the previous 50 years.
When you got in the business, Theo, what was the interest rates?
It was around a 6% rate.
Yeah.
then.
Right.
Yeah.
So even at that level, even with it creeping up, it's still extremely low.
And I remember 18%. And you know what? We still sold houses. And Rick, I know you did too.
Yes.
And we got to the early 90s and went to 10%. I thought we'd died and gone to heaven. It's like, wow, under 10%.
Well, and that's where I got mine. That very first year I bought my first home, we're talking about 15 years ago, you're going to get one of the best rates out there at, 10.125. I'm like, really? Let's go for it.
So, Theo, talk to me about what you tell people who are wanting to put, maybe they got notice that they're going to be transferred and they need to put their house on the market. What do you kind of advise them at this time of the year what to do?
Well, it really depending on what their goals are. If they've transferred and they need to sell, again, this is prime time. And the reason that I believe that it is because there's not a lot of competition that's out there. We've already gone through a real stint where there's been a lot of properties that sell very quickly. So inventory levels are already very, very low. But you take it to the holiday season, and you take it to where most sellers think the springtime is the best time to sell. So you have a larger influx of properties and sellers that are coming on the market. Right now, with the way that levels are in terms of inventory, with the festivities that are going, with the Christmas season, with the decorations, with everything happening, I think it's an excellent time to put your home on the market. get ahead of that, spring curve right now, and it helps with potentially getting multiple offers and potentially getting a little bit higher value for your property during this time season. I mean, real estate is supply and demand, and so supply is very low and demand's high. That's great.
And that's a very good point. Real estate is supply and demand. And right now, when you have lower inventories, as you said, get ahead of the curve and get out there and get it while it's a lower inventory, because guess what? You're going to have more people looking at lesser amount of inventory. So it makes perfect sense to put a home on the market like that. And as we mentioned also, add in the fact that it's festivities, it's holiday, a lot of times people are cooking, et cetera, so the home smells good, they're decorated nicely, it enhances the value. And one of the questions I was going to ask you, I wasn't able to ask Rick this on the prior session, was, one of the things is people will tell me from a mortgage perspective is, I'm going to wait until it's moved out so I can clear out my home. What's your advice to somebody who wants to have a home that is not decorated, and cleared out, versus a fully furnished home? Is there something better to sell an empty home versus a furnished home?
That's a great question, Chris. Really, really good question. And it's been my experience that some buyers have imagination and some don't. And so I think that the property having some furniture there, having some staging, so to speak, done, speaks a lot better than a vacant property. Again, buying can be emotional. And so walking into a vacant property doesn't give it an emotional or warm feel. We're influenced by the natural senses as people. And so I think that if you're needing to clean a property out, maybe some of the things that are less attractive you want to take out, but I think some of the more attractive things or some staging, would help.
Yeah, well, I think staging is essential. A lot of times people want to stage themselves, but they have clutter. They've got that ugly green couch that they got from their parents, 30 years ago and things like that. So I think staging is an integral part of being able to sell a home.
And I think the fact that he said some people have a great way to visualize and people don't. I mean, we tell Joe all the time he needs to visualize that new home. He needs to
there
visualize
it
it.
is. They work it in every show.
Time, right? Now, I'm surprised you didn't come up with that one, Rob.
Well,
That's normally the one that
I was
you
going to
do.
work it in somewhere, and you know what? And I probably will again. But a lot of people are linear thinkers, and they can't mentally place furniture and things like that. They need to see it. And vacant homes are really tougher to sell.
Absolutely.
We're up against a break already, but I want to make sure we have how we get a hold of you, Theo.
Absolutely. My best contact number is 832-559-9050. That's my office number. Also reachable by email, theo.allen@gmail.com and arghomesolutions.com.
arghomesolutions.com. Reach out. If you're in that area, definitely contact Theo, 832-559-9050. We are up against a break right now, so we'll be right back.
And it keeps it out of sight. When that shark bites.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show. Time flies when you're having fun. I want to give a big shout out to Capital Title, by the way. Capital Title is one of our great sponsors. They've got 8 locations here in the Houston area, servicing all of our great agents and all of our great clients out there. And they are also a great supporter of the show, and they are responsible for bringing on some of our guests today. So we definitely want to say thank you very much and give a big shout out to them. And our next guest we actually have as a result of Capital Title is Robert, and I don't want to mispronounce your last name, but Delaneo?
Delano, yes.
Delano, okay, perfect. And you're with Keller Williams up in the Woodlands.
That's correct.
Now, that's a little area, not a lot going on, not a lot of home sales. Is that correct?
Chris, I read earlier this year that the Woodlands is the second hottest market in the United States.
Second hottest market in the United States.
And what's number one?
There's a retirement community in Florida, and I can't recall the name of it. Covers 3 counties.
That is great.
All the New Yorkers moving to Florida. That's number one. That's funny. That's funny.
Well, let us know a little bit about the Woodlands. One of the things, not that anyone who's not in real estate should know about, but let us know a little bit what's going on with the Woodlands as far as why is it so popular? Why is it so hot?
It's just a well-managed, self-maintained community. It's I think we're approaching 120,000 people now. And did you know that 10% more people arrive in the Woodlands each morning than leave?
Really?
Yes. A lot of
Good
oil and gas
Lord.
activity? Yes. Absolutely.
That's
And
kind of a
that's probably
mind-blowing
going to
statistic.
increase as Exxon continues to bring in people and their campus out there. You're not going to have that migration out to the downtown anymore. So
Exxon, Lane Christensen moved their headquarters in there. Hughes Landing is being developed as another Market Street type environment. It's just on fire.
Absolutely. And one of the things, I think it's interesting, Houston has always been known as an energy hub, right? And so what we're actually going to see right now, you got Anadarko Petroleum up there. You have a lot of the stuff that's going on with ExxonMobil. You're really going to see two huge energy centers. You've got the energy corridor, which is absolutely phenomenal here and it drives a lot of the growth out in the Katy area and Memorial, et cetera. And you've got that second energy space with obviously one of the largest companies in the world, ExxonMobil, building this new 12-building office space center, et cetera, up there, along with all the other supporting and auxiliary services up there. It's truly going to be an area that you mentioned. More people arrive in the Woodlands in the morning than come back in the afternoon.
That figure does surprise me, though, because I've actually taken that trip, going the other way. I'm usually heading out to the Woodlands in the morning, and then watching the people heading the other way. I'm going, boy, I'm so glad I'm not doing that. And so more people are living and working in there. Is what
Absolutely, yes.
Well, there's a testimony to two different things going here. When you make from a political standpoint, without getting too political, when you make an environment
go ahead, Joe.
When you make an environment friendly to business, so where business, it makes sense for them to migrate and that sort of thing. I have a CEO out in California that I'm very good friends with a large company, and they're moving their corporate offices here. And they sat down with a political person that was trying to get some capital for their campaign out there, and the first thing he said is that every year, 400,000 more people are leaving here and going to Texas than they are coming here. I said, what are you going to do to fix that problem? And they didn't have a good answer. And at the end of the day, that's what drives it. People don't understand how much corporations, that sort of thing, drive a local market, how much impact it is. And we're seeing that in a massive way out in the Woodlands. And it's driving our local economy, and that helps our economy thrive. That's so huge and so important. That's an amazing thing out there. And then I forgot what my second point was.
But the first point was so strong, and we're going to go right there.
We don't really need a second point.
Yeah, there we go. There's so much hot market going on out there. I think his sales technique is to go outside and tell a bird, and then within 3 hours the house is sold. So
and a lot of people don't realize this, but the Woodlands has one of the lowest tax rates in the area.
What's the tax rate?
Oh, I remember the other point now.
Yeah.
Well, y'all talk about people are buying a lifestyle. Traffic and all that sort of thing used to be a concern, but I know, like for myself, I used to, just 3 years ago, drive 30 miles to work every day. I literally cross 1960 now to get to my office. I go over through one light, and I talk about traffic being bad at that light, getting to work, So we're seeing now, like in the Woodlands is a great example, that their business, their enjoyment, their family life, et cetera, is now it's just a hub there. They're not driving down to Houston to get to and from their lifestyle or their work back to their lifestyle.
That's right.
Yeah. And Robert, talk about some of the amenities, because you've got the waterways there. We have the water taxis. I mean, you've got so many venues there that are just fun to go visit. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, we've got a Market Street area that's it's next to the mall. There's the Waterway area, like you mentioned earlier. A lot of restaurants, famous restaurants and nightclubs and stores are moving out there. We're getting a Nordstrom's in the mall in next year. It's just it's crazy. I mean, it's
in a good way.
Yes.
And the other thing that's also interesting about the Woodlands is it's also bringing in, we talk about Katy being Katiezuela, because of the amount of Venezuelans going there. We actually, I grew up in Mexico all my life, so
Katiezuela. I haven't heard that.
That's what Katie's known as,
Katiezuela.
because if it's Latin Americans, they're all the Venezuelans are all moving out to Katy, and they're great, right? And obviously, me growing up in Mexico and Spanish being my first language, I ended up learning all these different things. But we actually call the Woodlands within the Mexico community Little Mexico, because of the amount of Latin Americans, specifically from Mexico, that are moving up to the Woodlands. And so one of the things that we're seeing a lot is a lot of good culture exchange that's going on in Houston in general. I've always said Houston is the #1 melting pot in the world. You are never going to find a city that is more diverse in any culture, in anything you want to, whether it be religious, culture, etc., than Houston. And it's interesting to see how that growth is taking place. And even within there, you have changes that are taking place on a national scale, and then within Houston, it's a lot of fun. Talk a little bit about that diversity that's also going on in the Woodlands.
Well, funny you should mention that, Chris. The Woodlands has a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce separate from the regular Chamber of Commerce. A lot of investors are moving in from Mexico. They're buying property that they can live in part of the year, and
right.
I guess there's some sort of law or something that if you own property here, you can spend so much time up here per year.
One of the things is that a lot of them, there's a lot of influential individuals that can actually go and make strategic investments in the United States, whether it be Houston or any place else, and go out and be able to get their legal green card that way if you make a certain amount of investments.
If a $1 million investment, you'll get on a fast track to get a green card.
You can also do $500,000 and produce 10 jobs.
Yeah.
Yes.
And 10 jobs, exactly.
That is correct. So you see a lot of that, and so then they get their ability to come up here, live part-time. A lot of times also is the education system. Education system was mentioned in Katy, education system obviously in the Woodlands, very strong education systems and individuals. I mean, if you look at world leaders, you see a lot of world leaders, guess what? They all came to the American universities and they go back to their respective countries. People want to get that education. They want to get that lifestyle. They want to get the ability to come in, go to a high school, and then be able to move on to a college because it becomes a lot easier that way as well. So we're seeing a lot of that, and that's sort of, the Woodlands is perfectly fills in those areas.
And Conroe ISD is very highly rated,
That is correct. And the other thing I wanted to mention, obviously we talked about this off air, we have some very experienced agents here, but you got into you're a recent inductee into the real estate market. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
What brought you into the real estate market? What got you so interested in Houston real estate?
Well, my girlfriend and I own 4 properties in the Woodlands, and when I got laid off from HP last year, I decided to go ahead and get my license to avoid the listing fees. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, I'm just going to give this a shot. It's a great time, great area to be in real estate, and I've closed more than 12 transactions so far.
And so, Robert, I want you to let everyone know that those listing fees are a great value now that you've experienced the other side.
Rob, ever the consummate realtor.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to avoid them right now, trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah, great point. We always talk about on the show using an expert, and there's stat after stat after stat, and I know Rob you can quote them till the audience falls asleep, but
and they often do.
But the home sells faster, sells for more. It doesn't, even in a hot market, it doesn't matter. There's stat after stat after stat that it's worth every time utilizing a professional expert to sell your home.
Yeah, the last stat I got from the National Association of Realtors that you got 17% greater price by listing as opposed to selling it on your own.
It'd be a fascinating statistic to me to see in a market like the Woodlands and Katy, that type of place where the inventory is just in such demand, still what the difference would be between a professional realtor selling a home versus someone trying to list it themselves. I've seen it over and over. It doesn't matter in a hot market. I've known people even now recently who said, well, the market's so hot, I'm going to go ahead and list the property myself, and or put it out there and try to sell it myself and do the for sale by owner, and it didn't move.
Right.
It didn't move. And it's like, hey, the exposure that you can get with a professional realtor moving that house, it's just worth it every time.
Well, thank you, Joe, for that plug. I appreciate that very much, and so do all our participants here today.
It's true. I'm not just saying it.
It's true. Tell me what the other factors in people moving out to the Woodlands. What they're buying a lifestyle. They're get for the schools, for the job. What else attracts them out in that area?
It's just like I said, the tax rate earlier. Mentioned earlier, the tax rate is low. It's a very well managed community. The infrastructure is really superb. You don't really have to leave the Woodlands. You could be born there, grow up there, and unfortunately die there and never have to leave. There's just everything you need is right there, and the villages are all they're located within a certain parameter of your home. They have a lot of restrictions as far as signs and things, so it's a very attractive area. The trees and everything are very natural. There's a lot of hike and bike trails and parks.
We're seeing a lot more of that down in Houston. We've actually starting to build that infrastructure about hike and bike trails, green spaces, things like that. But George Mitchell did a superb job on the Woodlands and they kind of plan that in advance instead of trying to do it, retroactively.
And the other thing that I think is great is you go up to the Woodlands right now on the holiday side of things, they do a bang-up job in decorating up the Woodlands for the holiday season. So a lot of times you have an individual who's new to Houston wants to come into town. It's great to be able to drive through it and see all the decorations up, all the lights and festivities and activities, the skating rink outside. Talk a little bit about how that holiday theme really comes into play at this time of year.
It's just amazing. I mean, they do a first-class job. Like you said, the skating rink is up now. They do a lot of decorations around the Waterway and Market Street area. And Market Street, by the way, kind of gives you a feel for being in Europe. It's cobblestone streets and things like that. It's just a first-class operation.
I would absolutely agree. And the other thing about the Woodlands, which I tell everybody, is I think that we mentioned the diversity, but when you get into holiday spirit, when you get into the theme that we have right now, and then you get the diversity of the Latin Americans and Native U.S. Americans or Native Americans, et cetera, it really becomes a lot of fun to see that.
Regardless of what your religious belief is, Christmas a lot of times ends up being more secular. And there's nothing more beautiful than seeing the lights. And you see beautiful white lights and everything decorated. It just makes it very magic. So it's kind of fun to go up to the, they do that a lot in some areas that some people have decided to leave those white lights up. You go over to the Highland Village area and stuff, they leave those lights up for a long time because
I would agree.
It looks great.
It looks gorgeous at nighttime. I love going by there and seeing everything. We're going to be coming up against a break. If you don't mind, Robert, let us know how we can reach you.
Yes, please call me on mobile at 832-797-8001. I'll be happy to show you around the Woodlands. And you can also reach me on my website, woodlandsarearealestate.com.
And he's not just doing tours now. He wants you to actually buy a house.
Woodlands tour guide.
That is true. But give him a call. That's Robert Delaneo, 832-797-8001. We're coming up against a break right now. When we come back, we'll have the great Monica Vaca as our last guest. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show. Time flies when you're having fun. We're up against the last segment of the show today.
Yeah, I just got a text from our Houston Association of Realtors chairman, and he says you're on a Christian station. You go ahead and say Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. On behalf of the Real Estate Rat Pack, we have no fear of saying Merry Christmas, everybody.
That is great. Well, after having some great guests all representing Keller Williams, we figure we diversify and bring in Monica Vaca with Century 21. Monica, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. And yes, we're going for the gold, aren't we? I just want to say it's a pleasure to be here in company of all these fabulous agents. I've known Rick forever. We actually worked together 26 years ago. Oh, my gosh, we've been doing this too long.
Wow. I would never guess from either one of you, by the way.
Well, we had to bring the testosterone level down a little bit in the room here. And thank God.
Well, we've actually tried to get Monica on months ago. And so we're
as busy as she is in the Memorial area, and she's here to defend Memorial area.
That's right. That's what I said when I sat here. I said, I'm going to defend my position. I certainly am.
Well, the Rat Pack had, we have a claim to fame of bringing on top volume, great, producing realtors. So, it just took our people and her people, a few
to get together
to get all those things, worked out, get on the schedule with each other.
So
did she negotiate?
We had to take all the blue M&Ms out. Is that correct?
That is correct. Okay. All the blue M&Ms had to be taken out. That is correct.
I couldn't remember what we negotiated.
But Monica, let us know a little bit about you, if you don't mind, for all those who are listening the first time, and your new location that you opened up.
Absolutely. Well, I've been doing this for 26 years, and been blessed to be a real estate in the Houston area. I am the broker owner of Century 21, the real estate group. We recently moved a year ago to the Memorial area. We were in the West Chase district before. We are at 13310 Memorial, just 2 blocks down from City Center.
Absolutely, right around the corner
from
me.
That's right.
Favorite places to go, by the way.
So, it's. I want to just compliment what everybody has been saying and tell you a little bit more about our dynamic city, which I'm sure all of our listeners know. But Houston itself is the most diverse city in the nation. And one of the recent statistics about Houston is that we are the number 5 destination for the international buyer. And this is huge because it's the first time that the city of Houston has ever made this list.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So we are just behind San Francisco, guys.
You
so
know,
that is huge. And we're there with New York. So that in itself, so this is where I defend my position about Memorial, right?
You really we like Memorial.
No, Houston. So Houston is being the the number 5 destination for the international purchaser at this time. We really need to look at Houston as a whole. I grew up in Katy. I lived in Katy. That was where I started my real estate career, in Katy, and then I moved into town. Moved into Memorial, and I've been doing business there ever since. But truth of the matter is that my office services most of the greater Houston area, and it has given me a great perspective to see how this city has grown. Let's not forget about, first of all, Houston itself is a lifestyle.
Right.
Houston itself is a lifestyle because we are totally changed. I mean, City Center, look what's happening in City Center the last 2 years. People 3 years ago thought City Center was going to go nowhere. Oh, my God, all these empty buildings. You can't get a spot in there anymore.
Right.
Not even a parking spot.
Not even a parking spot. Yeah, absolutely. So, and let's not forget about our medical center.
Right.
Guys.
Number 1 on the planet.
Number 1 on the planet. But did you know that the medical center is bringing in 70,000 new employees? So that in itself is giving, the Pearland area tremendous growth. The Houston, the southwest region, Houston, the Memorial area, just in general, Houston is booming. Houston is booming by leaps and bounds everywhere.
Well, and just to mention, this is, since we're on a Christian station, I can broach this subject pretty easily here. But an interesting point, something that probably wouldn't come up in a normal conversation talking about real estate, but when I was out in California a few weeks ago, one of the deciding factors for this company that I was speaking of earlier, the CEO, moving their corporation to Texas, was, he said, in a polite way, he goes, Texas just more closely aligns with our philosophical beliefs than California. It's amazing how that does play a factor for people in what they believe. At the end of the day, one thing that I've always been really impressed with in the size of Houston is that, for me, the politeness of the South and the courtesy and all that sort of thing, it is noticeable. I've never been to New York. I've been to Chicago multiple times. I've been to LA now multiple times. It is noticeable. There is a difference in our culture here, and it's a really kind of a cool thing. I've always been really impressed about that with Houston. But to finish that off, with the stat you talked about, number 5 on the list, I'm like, Houstonians love to eat. At one time, we were rated the fattest city in the United States. I think we lost that title. That's a good thing. But the cool thing about the international thing here is, man, we have world-class food. World-class food here. We're not behind anybody when it comes to food.
The restaurant, oh gosh, that's another soft spot. That's another soft spot of mine.
Enough about real estate. Let's talk about food.
Most people say, man, can she put it down, right? No, that is
I may be skinny, but I can eat, Hummingbirds consume like 5 times their weight in food. I think I'd do the same thing. So
really, the culinary arts in Houston is just unbelievable. Our restaurants are top-notch. And now that we talk about restaurants, it takes us into commercial. Our office does commercial as well, but the commercial real estate in Houston is taking a huge growth as well.
Yeah.
Something that hasn't been mentioned.
Right.
So we're getting more and more franchises, new franchises. We're getting more and more, gourmet restaurants, gourmet shops. Everything it's just unbelievable, the growth that our city's having. So, to back up what my colleagues said, it's definitely the right time to buy. It's definitely the right time to sell. To all our sellers out there that are thinking about, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till let me tell you, I'm going to wait till the prices go up more. If you really think about it, when there's more fish on the pond, the fish price drops,
Well,
right?
Right,
Well,
absolutely.
Monica, it's funny you should bring that up because I actually did a kind of a flow chart with somebody that said, okay, you wait for that your house to go up another 10%. The house you want to buy, which is $300,000 higher than what you are, is also going to go up 10%. So, you're going to be paying substantially more for the house you want to buy by waiting. So if you're ready to move,
absolutely.
it's a great time.
Absolutely, it definitely is. And, there's very few cities in the nation right now. And just to talk about the Memorial area, let's just take a small zip code at 77079.
Right.
We have increased 2.5% just this last 30 days. In the last 12 months, our prices have gone up 8.5%.
And that's Memorial Dairy Ashford area. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, that's the 77079 zip code. And if I go even further in and go to the villages, there's even
Right.
the
Even
numbers.
higher.
The numbers go higher.
Yep.
So please consult an expert.
As Rob says every show, and he hasn't said it yet, but I know it's coming up, so I'll say it for him, is please list your home. We need inventory. But as you mentioned right there is waiting does you no good. Why? Because you're just showing it to more. You have more fish in the pond to go select from, right?
Correct.
So put it on today. The fact that it's the holiday season means nothing. If you want to sell, get it out there.
I can tell you the last 10 years, the last quarters have been our best quarters in at least in the history of my company, in
Right.
my business. So, and I think that most of our colleagues will agree with that.
And I think
So
when it
don't
slows
fear
down,
the
it's because
don't
people
fear the
choose
holidays.
to
Yeah,
slow
absolutely.
down and said, I want to take time off to be with my family and enjoy the holidays. So that's why it's been traditionally slow. It's not because people aren't there buying. Is that people in the industry are going, I'm going to take some time off.
Yeah, and this is actually, it's a great time for both buyers and sellers.
Right.
Because the sellers can sell them at a good price still. They're not going to, there's not going to be a bidding war to the prices to go down. And also the buyers are going to get a good value right now because, yes, at that time they're going to have to end up paying more, right? So, again, it's the best time to be in real estate, to buy real estate, to sell real estate at this time in Houston, and the best city to live in, really.
Oh, I agree with you. And to go on our holiday theme that we're doing today,
Oh, yes.
I definitely want you to let us know about the toy drive that we're doing.
Thank you
Please.
for reminding me. I cannot forget that. Yes, we're actually asking everybody for their donations because we are doing a toy drive for the needy children in Houston. There are many needy children that have either no mother and father or very many families that don't have enough funds to buy their children what they need for Christmas. So our office is a drop-off location. We're collecting till December the 20th, and we're actually encouraging everybody, please, get it through the grapevine. Come, deliver the toys, unwrap toys. We need toys for children up to the age of 15. And the drop-off location is 713 I'm sorry, the drop-off location is 13130 Memorial Drive. I'm giving you my number, 13130 Memorial Drive. There you go.
Okay.
13130 Memorial Drive. Please drop off. One of the things we tell everybody, we are so fortunate to be in real estate. All of us in this room, and we're so fortunate to have some very successful years and successful months. But there's a lot of children out there that this time of year do not get presents, they do not have the funds, their parents, or they just don't have a family to give them to
Correct.
them.
Yeah.
So all we want to do, drop them off, please. Definitely get by the Century 21 office. An unwrapped gift for a child up to 15 years old. It'll be great. We're going to post it out there on the internet. We're going to have a great time in delivering these, and we're really going to make some children very happy.
Let's do a quick lightning round. What people want to have people take away from
Absolutely. Monica, let us know your lightning round. Well, actually, before we do that,
got 1 minute.
fast, yeah, we have 1 minute. Monica, let us know how we can reach you if you don't mind.
Absolutely. The number where you can reach our company and my team, the Vaca team, is at 713-278-2555. That number, once again, is 713-278-2555. And you can certainly look us up on the web at monicavaca@century21.com.
And then lightning round really fast. Give us 10 seconds or less. What do you want somebody to walk away from the show knowing?
Knowing that it is the best time to sell, put your house on the market, and the best time to buy.
Sounds great.
Theo?
Theo, how about you?
Absolutely. Do it now. Inventory is low, and take advantage of our marketplace.
And I think that has been pretty much the theme that we've had in the whole show. Time flies when you're having fun, and we've been having a lot of fun. Great guests. Go out there and look us up on realestateratpack.com. For all of our guests, for all of our future shows, look us up also on Facebook, Would Have Friends. Until next time, we will talk to you soon. We're out.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's
Dean.
Dean, and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.